Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We'll be starting in just a minute. We're just going to take a little break for a minute just to let people log in. Sometimes it takes a bit of time after we go live. While we are letting people log in, I'll introduce myself. I'm Sharon Walpole. I'm a director at CareerMap, and welcome to CareerMap Live. This is our portal on our website where we have fabulous speakers and guests like we have today to help you make decisions about your future, all sorts of information about careers, qualifications, helping you reach those sort of information points like with labour market information. We also produce Career Mag for graduates. It's free to subscribe, comes out 3 times a year, where we have lots of information in there as well. You can visit our jobs board, which is www.careermap.co.uk. Pop that into the chat in a moment. And that's where we have our live vacancies. And that is for graduate jobs, internships, placements, all sorts of other things that might be of interest for you. Right. Well, I'm going to hand over now to Manish from Roche. Roche, who can talk you through the session today and then introduce our panel of wonderful experts. Thank you guys for joining us this morning.
That's great. Thanks, Sharon. Okay. So welcome, everybody. Just a quick set of introductions before we get started. So my name's Manish Savania. I'm a senior data engineer here at Roche, and I'm also part of the data science placements team. So this is a team where we get together and we look to see how we can best take on placement students in the various roles that we have, and hopefully give students the best kind of data science experience possible, and really give an insight into the industry and data science that we work in. So I'll hand over to the rest of the team just to quickly introduce themselves before we get started.
Hi Manish, thank you. So my name is Laura McDaniel and I'm a data manager here at Roche. I work with Manish on the data science placements team, and we're looking forward to speaking to you today. So I'll hand over to Madja.
Oh, I don't think we can hear you, Madja. That's okay. We'll come back if maybe we'll do Natasha, and then we can come back for you.
Hi, I'm Natasha Dickren. I'm a placement student at Roche at the moment, and I'm a data manager.
That's great. Thanks, Natasha. And Venesha.
Hi, I'm Venesha Devay. I'm a data sharing specialist at Roche, and I'm one of the placement students.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Venesha. So I think Madja's having a bit of trouble there. But briefly, Madja is our HR early careers specialist, and will hopefully be able to answer any questions that we have around early careers from her point of view. Oh, you're back, Madja.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Yes, go ahead.
Brilliant. There you go. So hi, guys. My name is Maida, and I work within early career kind of side of HR department. And I kind of take care, together with my colleague Eddie, who's not here today with us. We take care of all of our early career programs, kind of ranging from apprenticeships all the way to registrar fellowships for medics in training. And yeah, I'm happy to kind of help out and answer any of the questions from my perspective in terms of the broader opportunities that you have in Roche or anything other that you want to know.
Perfect. That's great. Thanks, everybody. So just to kind of shout out, I guess, before we get started, if anybody does have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat or speak up. More than happy to take your questions as we go through. And then at the end, we've got a bit of time where everyone here that I've just introduced We'll form a panel, and then we'll be able to take any more questions, or maybe even have a short discussion about some of the topics that we're going to go over today. Okay, so some of the things that we're going to talk about today. We're going to have a brief overview of Roche, so really high level look at the company. We'll have a look through some of the early careers opportunities that we have available and look at the different programs that we have. And then we'll talk a little bit about how we hire. I think it's important for people to know about our hiring process, what's involved, and really things that you could do to prepare in before you apply. So let's get started. A little bit about Roche. So Roche as a company is over 120 years old now. It's based and founded in Basel in Switzerland, so we're a Swiss company. We are the #1 company in biotech, and we have over 17 biopharmaceuticals on the market at the moment. Biopharmaceuticals are, of course, pharmaceuticals that are engineered, so things like antibodies and other biologically engineered molecules such as that. Roche has been one of the first companies also to bring targeted medicines to patients, and we're also the global leader in cancer treatments. So here we're talking about treatments and regimes where we tailor those to the patient's need. So really being able to target specific diseases, but also specific diseases for specific types of patients and specific patient populations. And this is something we're very passionate about. And just to give you a little bit of a high-level overview as well, Roche has over 90,000 people across the globe. We're in more than 100 countries now. And yeah, I think we have a presence in almost every country. So a little bit about Roche and the organization, just to give you a little bit more of a deeper dive. So we have two main parts of the business. We have the pharmaceutical side, and this is where we're focused on translating science into effective medicines for patients. So traditionally, this is our pharmaceutical business and drug development business. This is where we have our pipeline of our new molecules coming through, with the hope that we'll be bringing out new medicines for patients in various different diseases. The other main side of the business that we have is our diagnostic side. So here we're looking to accurately diagnose and maintain health and diseases. This is done through a number of different types of diagnostic products. Again, we work hand in hand with pharmaceuticals and diagnostics so that we can best leverage the best of both, where we have perhaps a drug and also a diagnostic that may accompany it, and those are often co-developed together. Just to give you a bit of background about myself, I'm based in the pharmaceutical part of the business, and that's really the parts of the business that we'll be talking about today. We can take questions on the diagnostics part of the business as well, but we may have to take these offline and maybe get back to you later, or direct you to some of the websites that we have where that information is available. Outside of the two main business areas, we also have other departments within the Roche group. These are smaller departments and smaller companies that all work together to improve the way that we work and also help patients' health overall. An example of this is where we have maybe things like advanced tissue diagnostics and advanced sequencing, those types of groups we also have under the Roche group.
Hi Manish, so we just have a question in the chat from Oliver. Sure. And Oliver's question is Roche helping with finding a COVID vaccine?
Cool, thanks Laura. So yeah, really topical question. At the moment, to be honest, I can't say for sure because it's moving so quickly. What you could do is have a look at our website, and all the latest information you'll actually find on the press release page of the Roche.com website. So where we are working with partners on different types of activities for COVID, that'll be the best place to get that information. But yeah, it's evolving really, really quickly. It's certainly been keeping, I think, a lot of people very busy at the company. Okay, so moving on. I thought what I'd do is just give a really quick overview of our drug development process. So this is something that some of you may have seen before, if you're familiar with the area of pharmaceutical development, or just in general, you may have heard some of these phrases before. So things like phases of clinical trials, for example. The way Roche works, we have on this diagram pharmaceuticals along the top, and then at the bottom we have our diagnostics development pathway. The way we work is starting at the beginning in our discovery phase, so looking at new targets and generating new leads and new molecules. We then go into an exploratory phase, so roughly this could align to kind of a phase 0 or phase 1 sort of clinical trial. At the same time, our diagnostic partners may also be looking to identify if there are any new or novel ways to identify a particular disease that a drug or molecule may act on. That then goes through to proof of concept. So this is where you may have heard terms like phase 2 or phase 3 clinical trials. And at the same time, again, we may also be developing a diagnostic alongside that as well. Once we go through the next set of phases for a particular medicine, we get into clinical development and hopefully confirmation phase. So this is where, you know, we need to make sure that the molecules that we're working on are safe, first of all, and also effective for the disease or targets that they're designed for. And then following on from that, we're looking at commercializing and marketing for whatever that's drug or molecule or medicine may be. So that's a really high level, just to kind of give you a bit of a overview of the actual process. The next few slides will talk a bit more detail about different parts of the company.
So we've just got a couple of more questions in the chat, Manish. So we've got 2 questions. So one's from Frank, who wants to know if the slide deck will be made available. And we have one from Natalia, who says, do you feel your job is rewarding? Cool.
Good questions. So we can make the slide deck available afterwards. However, I should have said at the beginning, all of the material that I'm presenting today is all available on our websites. So there's actually nothing new here. We've got a couple of slides at the end with a few links as well. So by all means, do have a look at our website. So it's roche.com. And if you're particularly interested in the drug development process or research and development, there's a whole section on the website called Research and Development. And this picture, as well as additional information, is available there as well. The other question, do I find my job rewarding? Yes, I do. It is quite rewarding in knowing that things that I do are eventually going on and helping patients. So there's someone out there who's maybe receiving a drug that I may have had some small part to play in, but has actually helped them. So yeah, I hope that answers your questions. But again, do put in the chat if you have more questions.
Yeah, we've just got one more. So Yasmin is asking, how long on average does it take a drug to get FDA approved? Because she's interested in drug development and the process.
Mm-hmm. So I can't speak to the FDA approval process because I don't know. But in general, a drug can take anywhere from 10 to 15 years from its very first target selection and identification to being a product that can be marketed. It varies a lot, as you can imagine, depending on what the drug is, how complicated it is, and often how complicated the disease area is. That's usually the main hurdle. There are some very, very complicated diseases out there, cancers and things like that, that take a lot of work and a lot of research to actually get drugs out there. That's great. So thank you for the questions again. Keep them coming. But I'm going to move on, and then we've got time at the end as well if you've got other questions. Cool. So what I'm going to talk about next is a little bit about product development data sciences. So this is the area where that we sit in. So myself, Laura, Natasha and Venesha, we sit in this area of the business. And I want to just give a quick overview of what data sciences is, the type of work that we do, and then we'll go on later to talk about the early careers opportunities that we have in this area. So how does PD data sciences look? Overall, on this slide, there's the three main sections that I want to kind of highlight first of all. So design, capture, and analysis. PD data sciences is involved in designing, capturing, and analyzing the clinical trial data from our clinical development studies. We have lots of different roles that play a part in this, and what I'll do is go through and briefly describe each one that's kind of in the white text. And then later on, we've got Venesha and Natasha who will kind of give us a little bit more in depth about the areas that they've been working in to give you a bit more of an idea of what they do. So starting out in design, we have patient-centered outcomes research. So these guys look at the best way to collect data from our patients, depending on the disease areas that we're looking at. These could be very different or very new and very novel ways of trying to collect information about not only their health, but also the disease, and monitoring that, helping to monitor that over time and looking at how that kind of changes. We also have biostatistics that are involved in the design phase here. So when we are, again, designing clinical trials and clinical protocols, but our biostatistics colleagues are involved in looking at how the statistical side of the trial will be designed and then later executed, looking at things like sample sizes, how many patients we may need on a trial, and that type of activity. Going into capture, we've got our clinical data management departments and colleagues there. Here, we're looking to design the best way to capture the data from our clinical trials. All of this is done by a group of experts in clinical data management, looking to effectively try to capture data in the simplest way possible and to make it as easy as possible for the investigators, the doctors, the nurses who work on our trials to be able to capture the data from the patients, input it into a database, and then that allows later on other people to come along and analyze that data. Going on to the analysis stage, so I've just mentioned we need to analyze the data that comes out of our clinical trials. Here, primarily in data sciences, we have our biostatistics colleagues and our statistical programming and analysis colleagues as well. Here, what they do is look at the data that we've got coming in and also the clinical protocols that we have for our trials. They then design statistical analyses to effectively try to view the data and understand the data in a way that makes it as easy as possible for our clinical scientists to then review and hopefully make decisions based on that data. So very much data orientated, hence the name data sciences. Looking along the bottom of the slide here, we also have two other groups. So we have medical data and information solutions. Here, our colleagues look at the best ways to ensure that the design, capture, and analysis stages are as smooth as possible and that we have all the tools in place that we need to allow that to happen. We also have the Digital Transformation Office. And again, here we have colleagues that work across all three areas, looking to looking to how we can most effectively use digital technologies to enable these stages to happen and then get to this kind of delivery at the end. I'll pause there if there were any questions.
Yep, so we had one question from Ahmed. So what is the cost to bring a new drug to market? And also, how do you test the drugs before they're approved?
Mm-hmm. So I'll start with the cost question first. It's really hard to put a figure on that. There are lots and lots of people involved in bringing the drug to market and testing it. A ballpark figure would be in the hundreds of millions, I'd say. I'm sure there's some answers on the internet maybe that have tried to pin it down. But yeah, ballpark hundreds of millions of pounds or dollars or Swiss francs. I don't think it really matters when you talk about hundreds of millions. Yeah, so quite a lot. I'm sorry, Laura, the other question was?
So the second part of that question was, how do you test the drugs before they're
Sure.
approved?
Okay, so I guess I'll refer back to the slide we had earlier with our clinical development process. We go through a number of different stages and phases with our trials. Each different stage or phase looks at a particular facet of that drug or molecule. So starting out primarily with safety. So to make sure that the drug that we are looking to develop is 100% safe for people to take. It's not going to cause any like severe adverse reactions or anything like that. And then in the later stages of development, we have lots of ways of measuring how effective the drug is. So we want to make sure that although the drug is safe, that it actually does what we think it does, that it is helping the patient's health, it's improving their health, it's perhaps reducing the disease burden that they have. But yeah, I guess that's kind of really briefly how it's done. Again, there's more information on our website as well. So if you go to the research and development site on roche.com, there's loads of information on the specifics of how each of those things work.
And then we have two more questions, kind of along the same vein. So Nina's asking, is there a computer that analyzes the data or people?
Mm-hmm.
And Marwa is asking, do you use AI and machine learning?
Mm-hmm. Oh, great questions. So we use a lot of different tools to analyze our data. Some of the simplest are basic statistical techniques. So you may have heard of statistical techniques or statistical tests, things like probabilities and things like this. They're the basics tools that we have. On top of that, we then build out our analytics. So we have our, as you can see here, our analysis phase with our statistical programming and analysis colleagues who are experts in designing analyses to really dig into the data and kind of mine that data for all the information that it contains. All of these things are done with often programming tools. So programming tools like R, for example, or SAS is another widely used tool that we use. So yeah, hopefully that answered that question. And the second question was, Laura, just to repeat it.
Do you use AI and machine learning?
Sure. So we do have advanced analytics. So we have some of our groups looking at machine learning techniques and models. These are still in their very early days of development, I'd say. We need to make sure that these models that we have are robust, they are validated, so we can use them for our active kind of molecules and trials. But yeah, certainly we are looking into it, and we do have colleagues that work on that.
We've just had one more question pop in the chat from Sarah. Do you ever get computer errors, and how would you know and this wouldn't have serious implications?
Sure. So yeah, that's something that we take very seriously. We have lots of checking and quality control involved. So when we are doing our analyses of our data, we have lots of people who go and check and double check, sometimes even triple checking, to make sure that exactly what we expect a program or a computer or some software to do is exactly what it's exactly what it's doing. You know, it's behaving within the parameters that we expect it to. We also have regular audits. So we have internal audits, and we're also audited by external organizations, such as health authorities, FDA, EMA, health authorities, who come and audit our systems as well to make sure that again, they are functioning as they are expected and we don't have any errors.
Yep, and that's all the questions that we've got so far in the chat.
Excellent, that's great. I'll move on in that case. That's great. So hopefully that's given you a brief overview of the company and also the data sciences area that we're talking about as well. What I want to do next is have a quick look at the early careers opportunities and programs that we have, and then we'll go on to talk about some of the placement opportunities we also have for second year students. So brief overview of early careers at Roche. We've got opportunities all the way from very early opportunities that anyone often can apply for, so apprenticeships, all the way through to, as Madja mentioned earlier, fellowships and other types of advanced opportunities as well. So you can see we've got apprenticeships, we have placements that we'll be talking a little bit more about. We also have some graduate programs coming online, and then the fellowships as well. I've put a link on this slide here. This basically takes you to our early careers undergraduates page. That focuses primarily on the placements, but I'll share some links with you later as well, and we'll put those in the chat that direct you to the different parts of the website where you can get more information. So thinking about the undergraduates and the placement programs, what I wanted to do next is show you, oops. Okay, we'll do this one first, sorry. I'll show you a few of the areas later. So one of the things that I wanted to shout out was to make sure that you join our talent pools. So we have 2 early careers talent pools at the moment. We've got the general early careers talent pool, and we'll put the link to this in the chat for you as well. Here you'll be able to sign up, submit your CV and your information, and our recruitment teams will be looking through here, and if there are opportunities that come up and match with the type of things that you're interested in, those will be flagged to our recruitment teams, and they'll have information directly from there. Again, if you're specifically interested in data science, we also have a data science pool. Again, it's not a job that you're applying for, kind of just to make that clear. It's basically a pool of information, and if there is an opportunity that our recruitment teams are looking for, then they'll be able to have a look in the pool, find your information, and be able to contact you through that. So it's a way for us to know that you're interested in coming to join us, and yeah, hopefully when something does come up that matches your profile, that will be flagged. So talking about industrial placements, I just wanted to highlight some of the areas where we have industrial placement opportunities. Some of these are sometimes internships, and some of these are kind of 1 year long industrial placements that we have. We've got data science, of course, business IT, informatics, graphic design, clinical operations, corporate affairs. There's a whole range of things that we do where we invite students to come and join us and experience what it's like to work at Roche. So do keep an eye out on the website. You know, maybe you don't see something here that maybe doesn't interest you, but there will be other opportunities as well that we'll be advertising. So do keep an eye on the website for that, and of course sign up to the talent pools that I've just shown as well.
So we just have one question at the minute from Leroy, who's asking, has technology brought any new challenges to healthcare?
That's a good question. So I wouldn't say it's brought any challenges, but I think technology has definitely enabled us to do things differently from how we've traditionally done them. Like we mentioned earlier, I think somebody asked about AI and machine learning. Again, these are types of things that are really advanced and helping us to do things that perhaps earlier, you know, previously, like even 5 years ago, would have taken us much longer to do, whether that's data analysis or maybe even some type of image recognition and image analysis. Yeah, these are all things that are kind of helping us to speed up the way that we develop our drugs and the way that we can get medicines out to patients.
And we've just had another question pop up in the chat from Libby. Will you be working from home because of COVID?
So yeah, unfortunately, because of COVID, we have all been working from home, and as have our placement students. So everyone, has been working from home. It's been quite challenging, but I think we're starting to kind of get used to it now and understand what that really means. And hopefully we'll be back in the office as soon as we can. I know we've got colleagues working very hard to make that happen, but with the government guidelines at the moment, we will be working from home.
And those are all the questions we have at the minute.
Okay, thanks, Laura. Okay, so I'll move on to the next bit. So what I want to do next is briefly go through and talk about what you could expect from a placement at Roche. You can see here we've got a picture of some of our current students looking really enthusiastic. One of the things that I wanted to really point out is ownership of work and projects. So if you join us for a placement or any kind of early careers opportunity, really, you really do own the work and the projects that you work on. You will be seen by colleagues as just another colleague, that there won't be this sense of you're a student or you're a placement student or an intern. We very much take you on board as any other member of the team. And again, with that, you would have your own work and have your own projects that you may be working on. To kind of support with people joining us on placements, we've got a buddy scheme. So this is where you'll have somebody who you can kind of go to and ask questions throughout the year. Buddies usually help to kind of settle people in and really hopefully make them feel comfortable when they're kind of joining us. We have a mentorship scheme as well that people find really useful. This is where we pair people up with maybe much more senior people and people who come from completely different parts of our business. These connections really help to enable our mentees, the people who will be asking for mentors, to really think about their goals. Mentors will help with things like coaching, for example, and really kind of help to give insight into maybe a different part of the business that otherwise they may not have experienced. Just a shout out to our student community as well. I think at the last count this year we've got almost 50 various types of students working with us, and that's just in the UK, in Welwyn, where we're based. I think we've got probably the most number of placement students we've ever had, and then we've got other interns as well who have joined us this year. Talking about pre-induction activities, so before you join us, we'll have various catch-ups and one-to-one meetings. So if you are successful in coming to join us, again, the onboarding process starts before you even join us. We want to make sure that you're comfortable, you have everything that you need, and especially at the moment with COVID and people working from home, we want to make sure that we can help as much as possible before you join and before you start. There's also lots of early careers, sort of extracurricular opportunities, but I'll leave that to Venesha and Natasha to talk a little bit about. And then, of course, insight into the pharmaceutical industry. As a placement student, you'll get to experience the pharmaceutical industry from the inside. You'll get to learn about all the different things we do, and even have opportunities to go and speak to other departments and other parts of the business to learn a bit about what they do. So I'll pause there. I think that's enough from me, and I'm going to hand over to Venesha to talk a little bit more about her experience.
Hi, I'm Venesha, and I'm one of the Roche placement students this year. So to give a bit of background on myself, last year I was studying a bachelor's in bioengineering at the University of Sheffield, and I decided I wanted to do a placement year, and I knew specifically in pharmaceuticals because, as cliche as it sounds, I want to help people, and I had quite an interest in clinical trials, specifically how the data from them is used, because of course we know it's used to make the drug, but it can also be used in other studies, which I thought was really interesting. So in data sciences, I sit in MDIS. MDIS is Medical Data and Information Solutions. So MDIS is comprised of 3 separate departments, and in my placement I'm doing a rotation, so I will be sitting in all 3 of the departments. And right now I'm in DSI. So DSI's role is to enable data sharing, and we deal with Roche's data sharing policy. And this is really important because we have to ensure that Roche can share this clinical data information, make sure it's anonymized, to protect patient privacy and ensure data security, which is really important in this age of people's data being shared left, right, and center. So we've got to make sure that everything's anonymized. Another department is DAV, which stands for Data Architecture, Analysis and Visualization. And in DAV, we provide, develop, and ensure optimal use of computing environments for biometrics. So basically, we make the tools needed for the other departments to be able to run their clinical trials and to look at data. And the last department is DSG, which is Data Standards and Governance. In DSG, we drive the adoption of global data standards across clinical trials to meet regulatory requirements. So basically, we make sure that in all trials, they're using the correct data standards so that we can be approved by the FDA or by European agencies. We also deal with the Roche Pharma Data Governance Framework, which is basically meaning that we make decisions on the global data standards in Roche. So throughout my time in MDiS so far, I've been doing a lot of coding and making a lot of apps. A lot of those have been looking at the data from clinical trials and comparing those and seeing what data we can share, because we share a lot of data with PhD students, and what data we need to remain private. In terms of extracurriculars, there are a lot of extracurriculars at Roche, especially for the students. So one of the things that I do is something called WIBCO, which, to sum it up, is like all the staff from Welland and all the staff from Basel get together and we hear about any new clinical trials or any new medicine that's just been put out or anything that's been approved by the FDA. We also have the charity committee. So every year, Roche at Welland picks one charity to support and raise money for. Obviously, that's been a bit more difficult with COVID, but we're still trying to raise money as well as we can. The eco committee, which is really fun because there are several different departments. So if you're interested in fast fashion, you could do that. Or if you're interested in something like sustainable travel at work, you can focus on that. The Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Committee, which is so important, especially in the Black Lives Matter movement this year. And the ED&I committee has been great in organising so many different Black History Month talks. And me and some of the other students also started a book club. And it just goes to show that at Roche, you can really do anything. They're never going to say that you can't set up a random little club if you want, because we started it just kind of as something small for students. And now we have monthly meetups and we've got funding for it. So it just goes to show at Roche, you get a lot of experience with, for example, in my job, coding and looking at data, but you also have the fun side of things with other students and creating different clubs. So I'll pass on to Tash now.
Hi, everybody. So yeah, like I said before, I'm Natasha Venesha and I'm a placement student in clinical data management. So it was called biometrics, so I apologise if I refer to it as that, but now it's called data sciences. So a little bit about me. I was a student at the University of Sheffield last year, and I'm on an MEng bioengineering course. So I finished my 3 years and I'm doing my year in industry, and I will go back after my placement year to finish my master's. So this time last year, I was probably maybe in a similar situation to some of you guys. I was sat in a library searching for placements. And why me as an engineer? Why was I looking at doing a placement at Roche? Well, as bioengineering is a course that bridges the gap between healthcare and technology. So I wanted to find a placement that had something to do with that. So as data sciences, that is sort of what we do in the pharma industry. So like I said, I am a data manager. So I sit in clinical data management, which is one of the 6 departments in the data sciences department. So what do we actually do as a clinical data manager? So because we're dealing with patient information, with medical data, it's really important that it's super sensitive. So it's really important that we have good quality data when we're doing the analysis. So one of our jobs is to make sure that the data we collect from the patients is clean, correct, and complete. So I'm involved in a phase 3 breast cancer study, and my role on this study is a data acquisition specialist. So that means that I get to communicate with the sites and with the vendors to make sure that the data that we collect from the patients is clean, correct, and complete, and make sure it's standardized so that we can reuse it and get the most out of it. So as well as study work, you can also get involved in lots of projects. So this isn't necessarily clinical trial related, but still helps Roche as a company. So I was involved in the Enhanced Data Delivery Initiative, which is part of faster filing. So this project aims to get the medicines, get the drugs to the patients faster, which is what one of Roche's goals is. And by doing this, we developed a tool to speed up the delivery of data. So this meant that I got to communicate with loads of people all over the world in Roche, and to see how we could do this and what ways that we could develop this tool. Another project that I'm involved in is the Biosample Repository Management Project, which means I get to work with other people, other placement students actually, which has been really good fun. And I got to learn how to program in R, which I had no experience of before. So I'm currently learning that, which is a great skill. So because there's so many students at Roche, the network is great. So you get to meet loads of other students from all over the country, and it is really great. But apart from that, you also get to network with so many other permanent members of staff that you wouldn't usually get to meet. So there's loads of different committees you can get involved in, which Venesha mentioned a couple of. So you get to lead them, not only be a part of them, because they really encourage students to get involved. So it's great fun as well as working. You get to meet loads of people, even virtually, which is actually one of the great things that Roche has done for us. They've made it really great to meet loads of people, even when you're not in the office. So I'm setting up the Spanish Society this year because that was just something that I found quite interesting. And the BOW committee, which is Biometrics Oncology Welling, I lead that. So we find speakers to talk about what Roche is doing in the oncology department. I think that's all I've got to say about my placement so far. Feel free to ask any questions to me and Venesha specifically.
Hi, so I think we've had a couple of questions that will be applicable for yourself, Natasha and Venesha. So I'll kick off with the first one. So this came up after Venesha's, but I guess it's applicable to both of you. Did you know how to code already? And are you using R and SAS?
I knew how to code, but only in Python. But at the start of the placement, we were given a lot of training in R and SAS.
Yeah, I've not used SAS before. I hadn't used R before I came to Roche, but yeah, you start from very beginners. I had really limited experience in coding. I think I could do a couple of very basic statements, but that was it. So really, you get taught everything that you need to know.
So, sorry, just to kind of build a little bit on that. So all of our early career programs are actually designed to give you that sort of experiences. So we come kind of with the idea that actually you might have limited work or kind of technical experience, and that's completely fine. So no one is expecting you to kind of be the best coder in R that exists for you to get this opportunity. So all of it is very kind of based on us giving you the opportunity to learn and develop. So if you don't know how to code in R and want to join kind of this group, that's completely fine, do apply. So, and that goes again across all of our early career programs.
Thank you. And we have a question from Keely. Are you able to work in different parts of the business to learn which area is best for you?
I'll take that one, if that's okay.
Sure.
The way that in PD Data Sciences our placements work is once you apply and we invite you to come back, you'll be invited to work in one of our departments that we have in PD Data Sciences. Now, that will be your home, that will be the work and teams that you'll be working with. However, the great thing here is because you're in the company, we provide lots of opportunities for you to learn about other parts of the business. So it could take different forms. It could be, for example, things like shadowing or spending time with other colleagues from other parts of the business to learn more about what they do.
And we also had one question from a little bit earlier from Summer.
Sorry, Laura, can I just quickly build on that? So we do have, it's actually more specific for graduate programs that are actually rotational. So there is that rotational element inbuilt in them. But as Manish pointed out, we are very keen to kind of support your development. So if you want to explore something else, we could set up shadowing, we could set up for you to work on a project that might give you a little bit better understanding. And in general, we do have that kind of 20% rule where you can use kind of roughly 20% of your time for your personal development. And again, together with your buddies and your manager, you can figure out what does that mean for you specifically.
Awesome, thank you. So Summer was asking, what type of data do you collect on patients? So that's quite a big question.
Cool. I'll go with that one. So it depends on the treatment and the drug that we're looking at. So obviously you can imagine that we need some basic information about the patients, things like maybe how tall they are and basic things like that. But then depending on the drug that we're looking at and the type of disease that we're looking at, that data can be very specific to that. So for example, on a cancer or oncology study, we may be collecting things like information about the tumours themselves, perhaps, different types of blood tests that look for different things as well. It can be very varied, and we often have to collect a lot of data to give us the best possible picture of that disease and what that kind of looks like for that patient.
Awesome, thank you. Josh has asked, are you a big company in the UK and how many staff members are there?
I'm happy to take that one. So big, I would say yes. We do have sites that are bigger than the one in the UK, but we do have roughly, I think, across both of our sites, slightly over 2,000 people. So we are quite big, but again, we do have bigger sites in the world as well. And there was one question that I'm not sure if you picked up on, Laura, because a couple of them came at the same time. So I happen to remember it, so I'm happy to tackle it. It was around the interview that is part of the application for the talent pool. So basically what we try to do is kind of match you to the right opportunity. So rather than kind of saying, oh, we think this would be good for you, we want to have enough data points to kind of match you to a particular opportunity. So what we do ask you to do is perform that interview. So the interview looks kind of like this. So you'll see my face for change. And I will be asking 2 questions, which are around kind of your motivations to work for Roche and kind of why do you think you would be a good fit for Roche. And then you get kind of, I think, a couple seconds or up to a minute to think about it, and then it automatically starts the recording where you answer that sort of question. And this again gives us more rich data to use on top of your CV and cover letter to be able to match you to the right type of opportunity.
Awesome, thank you. So we've got a couple of questions that I think will probably be best answered in the next section because it's talking about the application process. So don't worry, we will get to your questions.
That's great. Let's move on. So thanks, Natasha. Thanks, Venesha. What we'll do is have a look through this next section. We'll talk about the application assessment process, specifically for our placement programs. And then, yeah, we can take any other questions as well. So just as an overview, really briefly, really simple, apply online. Apply online through our website. There may be some pre-assessment. I think Maida just answered a question about that. Some sort of online assessment potentially. And then once all that's good, we'll invite you to an assessment centre to to come and see us, or virtually see us in this case. So for our placement schemes, we have kind of two phases. The first phase is to really understand why you've applied for the role. Here we'll ask you to submit your cover letter and CV. Please do submit a cover letter. We do read every single one of them, and it really helps us to understand your motivation behind applying for the role. We also have a video interview, so this will be a really short couple of questions, like Maida just explained, really thinking about your motivations and your passions for applying. We also have another type of mindset activity, so this will help us to understand the way that you think. It's kind of like a game that you can play on your laptop or on your phone, and it helps us to understand a little bit more about you. So it helps to understand things like perhaps how you might work under pressure, or how you might work when there's lots of things coming at you. Kind of really kind of fun games that you can play just to give us a bit of an idea and get to know you a bit better. Again, you don't need to know anything before doing these things. It's all quite simple and straightforward. Just to note there to say that applications without a cover letter will be automatically rejected. So please do submit your cover letters as well as your CVs. Phase 2, so once we've got past that, we'll invite you to an assessment centre. Here, the focus is really getting to know who you are and how you will be able to work with us. Through our assessment centres, we have a number of our team members who work on these assessment centres. So, you know, most of the conversations you'll have will be with people that you may be working with in the future, in the near future. We'll have one-to-one interviews. So these will be competency-based interviews where you'll be asked a question and then you can provide an answer to that. We also have group working tasks. So again, you'll be asked to work in a group of a small group, maybe 4 or maybe 5 people, on a particular task, and then you'll kind of present that work back to the interview team just to see how you got on with it. And we also have a logical thinking activity that we'll ask you to do as well. So this is something where we will maybe give you some data to work with as we work in data sciences, and you'll just be asked to answer some questions about that data. The reason why we do all these different types of assessments is to make sure that we give you the most opportunity to show us how well you might do in one of these areas, but also give you the opportunity to kind of try again. So maybe if you felt like an interview didn't go so well, or perhaps sometimes when you do a group task, it doesn't feel like you maybe did so well in the interview situation. You know, we've got different types of activities to enable you to kind of hopefully do your best and kind of show us who you really are and kind of what you like to work on, things you're passionate about, and, you know, why you want to come and work with us, really. So what I wanted to do next is just go on to some of the actual opportunities that we have available. So the PD Data Sciences placement application is actually live on our website at the moment. You can go to this link here, go.roche.com/data science placement, and that will take you directly to the application itself. And we'll put the links to this also in the chat if you want to be able to click on them through there as well. The deadline for this one is the 28th of October. So we've got just over a week to be able to apply for that. Our assessment centres will be held either on the 16th, 17th or 18th of November, so you know when they are. And of course, as we said earlier, everything is being done virtually at the moment. So it'll be a virtual assessment centre done through kind of a live meeting or a Zoom meeting, for example. Laura, is there any questions?
Yep, so we do have some questions. So I think I have one for Maida that might be a quick one to cover off. So Marwa is asking, have any graduate schemes opened?
So no, not at the moment, but they will be opening by the end of the month / throughout November. So that's kind of the first round that we will be looking to open them, but they kind of do come up on a rolling basis. So just keep an eye out on the website, and whatever does open will go live ASAP on there.
Thank you. And then we have from Oliver and Ali. So what qualifications do you need, and kind of what are we looking for in a candidate, skills or experience?
So I'm happy to say that. So in terms of the actual kind of what degree you've done, we're not very picky. So I know that some companies kind of match you to the opportunities based on your academic kind of background. We don't do that. We're very kind of open in terms of where does your passion lie, and what do you actually want to do, and what do you bring to the table, and then we try to find the right opportunity based on that. There are some work programs that, for example, require you to have a PhD, given kind of the level of technicality of the program. But if so, it will be specifically stated with the program that it's a PhD level program, so that then you know whether you're kind of eligible for it or not. In terms of the skills and capabilities and kind of experience, so experience-wise, we don't look for work experience. So you will not be screened out based on whether you do or don't have experience. If we think it would be useful to have some sort of experience, this is normally kind of for more senior, say for regulatory for fellowships or something like that. It would be kind of written down in the advert, but overall we see all of our early career as the opportunity to give you that experience. So we won't be screening you out based on experience. In terms of skills and capabilities, I think the biggest bit that we look for, is to understand your motivation. So we really want to bring on board people who are passionate and who want to be there and who actually know why they want to be there, rather than just kind of, oh, I just want to do something sort of thing. And in terms of skills and capabilities, I think we look for people who are agile, who are quick learners, and who are kind of able to work well in a team, kind of work in a quick, fast-paced environment, act on feedback, and who are keen to kind of learn and develop constantly, and who know where their passion is and kind of have an idea of this is what I want to pursue. And then together with the team, we can help you out, kind of make those steps. So I think those are kind of the biggest pieces. Obviously, each program looks for slightly different things, and all of that will be called out in the job description. So my biggest kind of tip is, do you read job descriptions? And that's a good step to prepare for the interview as well, to understand what is it that we're actually looking for that specific role.
Awesome, thank you. And Marwa is asking, how technical are the interviews? Do you ask science/drug related questions?
So not really. All of our interview per se is based on competency-based questions, where we ask you to reflect, and most are focused around kind of our core competencies that I mentioned. So agility, ability to inspire and influence others. So those kinds of questions. The technical, we normally tackle technical side of things either through, as the team mentioned, kind of we give you data and then you do something with it, or through kind of presentations where we might ask some technical questions, but normally we leave them quite broad, because again, we don't expect you guys to have very kind of high level, very top kind of technical experience, because we are aware that for some of you this might be your first kind of work experience. So we leave all of it very open, and what we're interested is kind of your thinking process and where you take the question, rather than kind of having, oh, they didn't mention that this stage of the drug development, this is kind of a big no-no sort of thing.
And then I think that one of the last questions we've got in the chat is from Natalia, and she says, I read our CVs get put through a computer at some big companies before a human reads them. Is this true? If so, what should I include to get past this section?
This is not true. I'm the computer of Roche. I read through your CVs and your personal statements, so we don't do that. And what I would tell you to include anyways is really look at the job description and tweak your CV and the cover letter to the company, because we are actually trying to understand why are you applying for it. And if you imagine that for some of our roles we have like 200 applicants and are recruiting for 4 or 6, you really need to kind of make your case. So really do reflect on what is it in the kind of job description, what does a company stand for, and why do you actually want to apply, and then really clearly pick out examples in the CV that portray that the best. And as Manish said, do put your cover letter in, because that is the first screen that we do. If you don't have a cover letter, you will be automatically screened out.
Awesome. And that is all of the questions that we have so far in the chat, I think.
Brilliant.
That's great. Thanks, Laura.
I just want to step in quickly and say we have a bit of time left, but we're going over. So if you want to possibly get to the screen too, where you make sure you cover the areas that you want to.
Sure, that's great. Thanks, Sharon. So very quickly, we've got placement opportunities in other areas coming soon. So we'll have our global clinical operations intern advertised late this month, late in October. And then later on, we'll also have our country clinical operations UK industrial placement students. Again, these will be advertised in December with assessment days early in next year. The final slide I have is just some useful links and information. Please feel free to kind of screenshot this if you want to have a look at them later. And I know Laura has also been putting these links in the chat throughout this live event as well. Just finally to say that if you do have any further questions, or if you do have anything else that maybe we've not covered that you wanted to ask us, you can email those questions to us. It's uk.recruitment@roche.com, and those will work their way through to our early careers team and maybe to Maida as well, and should be able to answer those questions that you might have still.
Absolutely. And also we're kind of regularly updating our external website, so a lot of information and tips and tricks on how to succeed in the assessment center, what are the programs that we have, and so on and so forth. All of that is on the website, so do take a look at that as well.
So just quickly, Oliver's just asking, what locations do we recruit in?
A lot of them. In the UK, our sites are in Welwyn and in Burgess Hill, and this is what me and Eddie are primarily taking care of. But we do have early career programs kind of worldwide in the States, throughout the Europe, and we are looking to align kind of globally. So hopefully within the next year or so, we would be having the opportunity of opening up an assessment center where you could kind of choose what location you would want to go for. But at the moment, our primarily focus is Welwyn and Burgess Hill. So yeah, Welwyn is in Hertfordshire and Burgess Hill is, someone will have to help me with the English geography. There you go. So yeah, those are our two sites. So Pharma is in Welwyn and Dia and DC. So diagnostics and diabetes care are in Burgess Hill.
Oliver is also asking, if we're working from home, could we still apply even if we aren't in those locations?
Absolutely. So normally what we also do offer is help with relocation for most of the roles. So that might be helpful, but again, we are also exploring the option of location agnostic recruiting. So meaning that you could work from home as your primary kind of workstation. And given the corona, we are all working from home. So in either case, do apply and we'll figure something out.
Great. Thank you, everybody, for all of your fabulous questions. And thank you all for joining us from Roche. And I think there's some really exciting opportunities here for everybody to go with. And particularly exciting that, you know, we're talking about one specifically today, but there's lots of other opportunities. Do you want to pop your question in the chat box again that people can email to? Because sadly, we're coming to the end of our session today. This whole session has been recorded, as I've popped into the chat several times throughout, and will be available again on our Career Map Live / careermap.co.uk/webinars, and we will be making some noise across our social media about it as well. So I'd say thanks to all of our guests. It's goodbye from me, Sharon, and if anyone wants to go through your names.
Bye from me, it's Manish.
Bye from me, it's Laura.
Bye from me, it's Maida.
Lovely ladies.
Bye from me, I'm Tash.
Bye from me, I'm Venesha.
Great. Thanks very much, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.